IDOLM STER Cinderella Girls is soon to be out in English, and I know what you're thinking. Hey, I'm a Shadowverse player, I only play the 6 main classes, I don't really play collab decks, do I even need any of these cards? And that's where I have to tell you, there are a lot of super vital, super staple, important cards from this set for all the main classes. So in this video, we're going to go over the must-have cards from IDOLM STER Cinderella Girls, and tell you exactly which ones you should pick up depending on the class you're playing. First things first, in Forestcraft, good lord, this is literally, if there's one card you have to pick up that's going to be good for literally forever, it is Anastasia. Anastasia is a 5 cost 2/4 that on Fanfare recovers 2 play points, basically being a 3 cost 2/4 that then basically benefits you from playing the combo game plan. So if you've played 3 or more cards this turn, she recovers another 2 play points, being basically a 1 cost 2/4. And if you've played 5 cards, then she gives every follower on your field +1/+1. This also includes neutral followers, by the way. This will be important in the future. So yes, she is also already herself a 1 cost 3/5 in that sense if you play her under a combo deck, but she's going to be a super vital card come set 8 in particular with the Orcus Puppet deck. But just in general, in Japan, we've seen her used in so many different Forestcraft decks just because she fits right into the combo game plan. So this is a must-have 3 of. And another card that works really well with her is the Silver Spell Goddess by the Sunlit Sea. It's a 1 cost spell that draws you a card, and if you have a follower that costs 5 or more on your field, then you also recover a play point. So not only is this Forestcraft's insight, but it also is basically free as long as something like Anastasia is in play. Keep in mind, you can play Anastasia and then play 2 goddesses to immediately proc her 3 played cards effect. So Goddess by the Sunlit Sea is also a very recommended 3 of, also going to be used in puppets in the future. So just these 2 forest cards already very vital ones for this class in the future. Looking at Sword, I feel like Sword does have the most out of IDOLM STER because of these starter decks, but the starters are just kind of like within their own IMAS archetypes, not so much necessarily for the classes. However, Kyoko Igarashi is a 7 cost 6/7 that has Ward and heals your leader 3 while drawing 2 cards on Fanfare, that evolves for 1 and then selects an enemy follower on the field and engages it or refreshes it. This means you can engage in your stuff you want to attack into, or you can also refresh an opponent's ward so you can then swing into face. But she also doesn't take damage during your turn, which means that you can basically engage something and swing into it, and she will keep her 8 defense with a ward, by the way. She is used in Control Sword because you have ways to give her aura in Sword in general. So I'd say if you're a Sword player and you want to play Control Sword in particular, I would pick up like 3 of the base, 2 of the evolve version. Same goes for Nagi Hisakawa. She's a 4 cost 4/4 that on Fanfare banishes 2 1 cost cards from your cemetery. Can be anything, neutral, sword, doesn't matter. And then chooses 2 of the 3 effects. The first one destroys an enemy follower, the second one deals 2 damage to the enemy leader, and the third one draws a card and discards a card. She saw a bit of use here and there in some of the sword archetypes just because you do have quite a lot of 1-drops. So I'd say picking up 2 or 3 can be good, or just a 1-of as a tech is also fine. And then we go all the way down to the bronzes. We have Mayu Sakuma. She's a 3 cost 3/4 with Assail, Bane, and Drain. So might not seem like much, but again, in Control Sword, she can be pretty annoying just because again you can also give her aura and buff her, and then that Bane and Drain is also super annoying with the aura added in. So I'd say another 3 of here. And then also Angelic Maid, 2 cost quick spell that selects a follower on your field and give it +1 attack, +3 defense, and heals your leader 3. So this is a good way to just make your early drop super annoying and hard to take out, right? You drop like a 2/2 1-drop and then suddenly it becomes a 3/5 right after that. So it's definitely quite annoying and can be very swingy in the early game. So I'd say pick up 3. It's also bronze, so you can definitely see this used in a lot of different decks. Moving on to Runecraft, we have a pretty interesting one to start with, which is Mizuki Kawashima. 7 cost 7/7 that engages herself to deal 3 damage to each enemy leader and enemy follower in the field, so big AoE board wipe. But if you have at least 9 cards with different base costs in your cemetery, it becomes 7 instead. So this might sound like a funny kind of like Highlander build that you could try out, but this will actually be used in Vincent Rune over in set 11, which just came out in Japan. So definitely good timing, I guess, that I'm making this video now because I wouldn't have recommended this card earlier. So I'd say pick up like 1 or 2 just for that deck if you're planning to play Rune in the future. And then Shiki Ichinose, one of my personal favorite IDOLM STER girls, is a 5 cost 2/5 with a couple interesting effects. First, on Fanfare, she looks at top 3 of your deck and puts 1 into EX area and buries the rest, so it's really good for just like dunking a bunch of spells into cemetery for spell chain. And she also engages herself and discards 1 to deal 5 damage to an enemy follower. So again, letting you discard spells. And if you evolve her for 2, you can select a card in your EX area and deal damage equal to its cost to your leader, leader to make it cost 0 for this turn. This does mean you can technically put a dimension shift into your EX area and then deal that much damage to yourself just to get an extra turn immediately. But even then, just to like tempo out some stuff that's like 3 cost, 4 cost, sometimes that damage doesn't really matter if you can use it as a resource. Let's say Shiki is a pretty good pickup if you're playing Rune as well. So I'd say 3 of the base and probably just 1 of the evolve is fine. You mostly want it just for the fanfare and for the discard effect. And then we have the 5 cost spell Full Bloom Panorama. It's a quick that lets you choose 2 enemy followers in the field and destroy them. Technically it's up to 2, so you can even choose just 1 and destroy it. But it's a pretty good way to just like clear out, you know, it's basically like a better execution exclusive to Rune. So I'd say picking up 2 or 3 of this is pretty safe, especially because it's a bronze. Now Dragon got a lot of really good stuff in this set actually that works super well in a lot of different decks. The legendary Akari Tsujino is a 4 cost 4/5 with ward that on fanfare heals your leader 3. And if you have the 10 maximum play points, she also deals 3 damage to each enemy leader. And whenever she would take at least 5 damage, she increases your maximum play points by 1. So you get a ramp just from trading her into something that would deal her 5 damage. And she also provides healing, which of course Dragon doesn't actually have that much of since, you know, Shenlong got restricted. So she's a good replacement for Shenlong, but she also sees some use in some Galmu variants and some heal and control dragon variants too. So a pretty safe 3 of pickup. But in my opinion, the single best card for me out of this entire set that the moment I was asked to make this video, I was like, this is the card I have to recommend, is Fumika Sagisawa. 7 cost 4/4 that on fanfare searches your deck for a 3 cost and a 1 cost follower and summons them and then shuffles the deck. Technically, if you play IMAS followers from this effect, she also deals 2 damage to an enemy follower for each one. But that part's not going to matter in Dragoncraft. What matters is that fanfare. This can basically search you Prime Dragon Keeper as well as a Phylene and then also proc Phylene's fanfare too. This can search you a 3 cost and 1 cost of the Disdain package as well. She's super important in Galmu, like literally in my opinion, she's the reason why I picked Galmu as my deck for the GP during this season last year. But she's also going to be super important in Aggro Dragon just a couple sets down the line, as there's going to be more and more good 3 cost and 1 cost followers that come out. So that way, even if you don't manage to win early, you can just kind of like win off of the final Fumika on turn 7. Just overall a really good card because it being 7 also means that anything you play that has an overflow effect immediately procs. So I think I've gassed this card enough. It's definitely a 3 of, actually just no questions asked. Then Unbound Emotion is the 2 cost spell. So it's a 2 cost that deals 7 damage to each follower in the field, including your own. So sounds pretty insane, right? But then you read the first line of text, which says this card costs 1 more to play for every follower on the field. So if there's nothing on the board, you can play it for 2, but otherwise this also counts your own. So optimally, if your opponent has like, you know, 1 big dude on the field, then you can play this for 3. But if they've got like a full board, then you're playing this for 7. But even then, 7 damage to everything usually will take everything out. So I'd say picking up 3 of this is pretty safe. And then one of the tech options in the bronzes is Yukari Mizumoto. It's a 4 cost 4/4 that on fanfare lets you either destroy an enemy amulet or draw a card. The amulet hate was used here and there from what I remember, so having this as a 1 or a 2 over even 3 since it's a bronze is also pretty safe. Abyss now has actually 2 good legendaries this set that are relatively generic. First we have Ranko Kanzaki, which is a 4 cost 3/3 that on fanfare chooses an enemy follower in the field and deals it 2 damage. Already pretty good, but if you evolve her, she looks at top 4 of your deck and then puts 1 into EX area and buries the rest, which is really good in Abyss. So it's good for Necro Charge, and it also puts something to EX, so you're basically, you know, plussing from this. So I think having her as like a 3 of the base form, 2 of the evolve form is pretty safe. And the other legendary, Sachiko Koshimizu, is a 2 cost 3/3 that on fanfare deals 2 damage to your leader. So really good stats, but of course, you know, does have to damage yourself. But if your leader's defense is 10 or less, you know, quite literally Vengeance state, then she gets Storm and Bane. So she is used in Sanguine, and I mean, sometimes in Ektar, I suppose, as a revive target. So that fanfare is actually pretty useful, especially if you go first, you know, just having that kind of big stat stick without having to really worry too much about damaging yourself is honestly pretty good. So I'd say pick up 1 or 2 of Sachiko as well. But then there is one card that I think is after Fumika, this is the next best gold, I guess next to Anastasia for me, which is Whispers of a Dream. This is a quick spell that's a 2 cost that selects an enemy follower that costs 3 or less on the field, destroys it, and also buries the top card of your deck. So not only is it super synergistic with Abysscraft, but it also destroys basically a lot of the best attackers in the formats going forward as well. You'll notice there'll be a lot of really good 3 cost followers and below in the future. This is used in virtually every single Abysscraft going forward, also in set 7 and set 8. So pick up 3, and honestly, if you're an Abysscraft main, I personally, I'm not even an Abysscraft main. Actually, it's one of my least used classes. I'm pretty sure I own 9 of this card. So if you have a lot of Abyss decks, then I do recommend picking up quite a few of this one. And finally, for one of the upcoming best decks in the future, which is going to be Bats, Last Daylight is a super important card there. It's a 2-cost spell that deals 3 damage to an enemy follower and then gives +1 attack to each 1-cost follower or lower on your field. So this means that if you have a full board of Bats and you play this, then boom, you just have, you know, full board of 2 1s, and then you can push a lot of damage to face while taking out an opponent's like ward with 3 defense or something. So definitely a must-have 3-up in Bats, and honestly could be good in something else that uses 1-cost followers in the future too. And finally, we have Haven. We start off with Kaede Takagaki. She is a 5-cost 3/5 with ward that on Fanfare banishes an enemy follower, which is already like pretty good. But then at the start of your end phase, if your leader has 5 or less defense, she heals you 5 and draws a card. So a really good comeback card, but also just very nice in Ward Haven. So I think especially if you're a Ward Haven player, definitely pick up 3. And then Shin Sato is another one that did see a bit of use as a 3-cost 3/3 that on Fanfare draws a card. But then if you evolve her for 6, it's a big evolve cost, but she evolves, becomes a 5/5, and then chooses an 8-cost or less follower in your cemetery and summons it. So this could be used with Aegis. So if you want to use it with Aegis specifically, I think you can go for it. Just keep in mind you won't be able to evolve the Aegis that turn because you already evolved for Shin Sato's effect. So I think if you're really into control and want to try out something new, I'd say pick up 3 of the base, 1 of the evolve form. It also gives you something to do on turn 3, I suppose. But then in my opinion, again, it's like always the gold that feel like they're by far the best from this set for the classes. We have Nana Abe. She's a 3-cost 3/2 that on Fanfare looks at top 5 of your deck and reveals an amulet from among them and adds it to your hand, and the rest goes to the bottom. So she's an amulet searcher, and if you evolve her for 1, she summons an amulet that costs 3 or less from your hand automatically while being a 4/3. Amulet Haven will be a really good deck in the future. So if you want to play Amulet Haven, if you like Alexiel from Grand Blue Fantasy especially, this is going to be a must-have, so don't miss out on it. And the final card is Psychic Maiden. The 3-cost amulet, one of the targets you can actually search, has a Fanfare effect to choose an enemy follower with 4 defense or less and banish it. So even if you chip it down to 4 with other, damage, you can then use it as a banish target. But then also you can pay 5, engage this and bury it to select an enemy follower in the field and banish it. And that one can be virtually anything. So you can play this for free and then use the Fanfare, and then later down the line, you kind of put this trap on the field that your opponent has to worry about. So I'd say Psychic Maiden is good as like a 2 or a 3 of, whereas Nana Abe was like a 3 of the base and I'd say 2 of the evolve form. And that's going to be it for the recommended cards from IDOLM STER Cinderella Girls that you should pick up for all of the different classes. I do think there's actually quite a lot, and I mean, especially the golds, feel like every single class has like one really amazing gold that they all want to use. So I hope this video helps you in preparing your pickup lists for this set and what you want to look out for from your packs, even if you don't plan to play IDOLM STER, which honestly, I think the IDOLM STER decks are quite fun too, but it was really exciting to see like a lot of these cards be used and open up deck building quite a lot. With that, that's gonna be it for me today. If you like this video, give it a like, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.